Diddy really screwed up, and I'm not referring to his criminal trial, which has him sitting in prison right now, but it has to do with something that happened right before he got arrested. If you've seen the Netflix documentary about Diddy, Diddy The Reckoning, which 50 Cent produced, there's some footage there that had never been seen before. This is a photographer that Diddy hired to follow him around and document his life. That footage ended up going to 50 Cent.
Maybe that's what Snoop went through, I don't know. But let the people know, because it was too early back then. You know, Pac just had died.
So this one night, 50 called me up, and you know, they got him on the phone, man. He was just talking, we was talking about old time shit, you know, sit down with Black Hands, sit down with, you know, with Puff Kids, the whole Puff situation, and this documentary that he's gonna be doing.
When 50 Cent released the Netflix documentary about Sean Combs, most people expected all attention to stay centered on Diddy. But online conversations quickly moved in another direction, and before long, Snoop Dogg's name started entering the discussion. Social media users began suggesting that Snoop's silence carried some hidden meaning. Older interviews resurfaced, short clips were pulled from different contexts, and comments linked to Gene Deal started being reshaped into much larger narratives. As online theories spread, people began speculating about what may have been left out of the documentary and whether 50 Cent knew more than he revealed. But once the headlines and internet noise are stripped away, the story looks far less explosive, built more on recycled narratives and assumptions than actual proof. In this breakdown, we're looking at where these claims started, what was truly said, what made it into the documentary, what didn't, and what remains verified versus purely speculative.
Audio from Suge Knight. It's from his podcast with Dave Mays, and he's speaking on, you know, Tupac and Snoop being cool, and how, you know, after Tupac got killed, Snoop started hanging out with Diddy. And, you know, he also speaks on how, you know, Snoop, he did the Steve Harvey show with Diddy after Tupac got killed. Check this out.
Okay. Let's download it right now.
Then you look at the scenario how everybody used Pac to make their stuff famous or make their project better. You got people who use their songs with Pac and tell them how much they love Pac, but they do songs with Puffy. You got Steve Harvey over there, you know, this motherfucker telling, well, fuck Pac, according to everybody else. He brings Snoop and Puffy on there and say, these are dudes who learn this in the East Coast, West Coast.
What's up, Snoop? What's up, Puff?
Hey, whoa, wait a minute, fellas here, hold up. You know, I know all about this East Coast, West Coast rivalry thing here, but we in Chicago now. This rivalry stuff, we gotta stop it, man. We stop that, we stop a lot of this violence.
Yo, Steve, check this, man. All that East Coast, West Coast stuff is a bunch of media hype. It's been my dog from day one, you know what I'm saying? It's all good between me and him, that's my people.
For real, that's what we came in for. We came in to light it up and ride it up. We making this shit happen.
Now, Pac, if you love Pac so much, how you with the motherfucker, everybody say got something to do. The first get down, it happened to Pac in New York. Then the second one.
What you think about Suge comments? And I never asked you this before, but did you have an issue with Snoop hanging out with Diddy after Tupac got killed?
I always felt that was wrong. I'm gonna just keep it real. I'm talking about from that. Like now, okay, you know what I mean? I'm 46, Snoop probably early 50s. If he figured out now, he might go by the opinion like, okay, Puffy had nothing to do with Pac. You know, we grown now. If he want to be his friend, no problem. But back then, that was just awkward. You know what I mean? And the reason why it was awkward to me that I never even like it because you knew how Pac felt about this individual. You know what I mean? Even if you don't agree with him, you probably could have said, you know what, I probably ain't gonna come out, you know, publicly with this because until things clear up, so I really know I could be certain that, you know, they had nothing to do with Pac. But it's like, it was no, you know, okay, it is what it is. So that I never really respected that back then.
So you had an issue with it, you didn't like it?
Never really liked it. It just was a strange look because you was Pac boy, you know what I mean? Puffy, you know, it's clear they had some issues with Pac. And Pac died, and all of a sudden you chilling with Puffy. Back then it just, okay, now you can say what you want. You go all grandfathers, I guess. You know what I mean? That's different now. But back then I think it was weird. It was tasteless. You know what I mean? It didn't seem like you really had that much love for Pac. You could have just, you know what I mean? Unless he pressured him or like questioned Puffy, like, yo, what's up with this? What's up with that? Then you could say, you know what I mean?
Snoop Dogg has never appeared in court filings, federal records, or legal charges tied to Diddy. Despite that, shortly after the documentary premiered, his name was quickly pulled into growing online speculation. That attention wasn't driven by new evidence. Instead, it stemmed largely from Snoop's long-standing role in hip-hop and his connections to many major figures from a controversial era. Rumors intensified after vague comments from Gene Deal suggested that certain material may not have made the final cut. Those comments helped fuel theories that 50 Cent intentionally left out names or footage. And because Snoop remained highly visible, he became an easy focus. Older clips and unsupported claims resurfaced and began circulating as facts, blurring the line between association and implication. Looking only at the evidence, there is still no proof of wrongdoing, only industry proximity and speculation.
Like, I believe somebody mentioned that they seen a video with me and the dude Prodigy or one of the dudes from ID, as if I was with. They don't know the backdrop of that. I went to his hotel room ready to fight. Like, bro, I'll fight everybody in that room one-on-one. Even if I lose, it doesn't matter. The Outlaws was with me. My homie Tiny, the Mexican homie, was with me. I didn't go there and say, let me get in a video with these guys. I went there knocking on their door. Doom, doom, doom. Tell them dudes to come out. What's up with your Pac? You got a problem with Pac? Because we could just fight like man to man, face to face, and then shake hands. That was my approach with them. But when they told me they didn't have no problem, I don't mind being with you. You know what I mean? I don't mind shaking your hand because they told me they had love for Pac. So that's different, you know what I mean? If he come out and say, well, I questioned Puffy about it, I believe that he didn't, he loved Pac, that's my opinion, I can move the way I want to move. So when people try to, I noticed somebody, I think on your page do that, when Napoleon was in a video with Mobb Deep. They don't know how I got in that video with Mobb Deep, you know what I mean? I pulled up on him but I'm the type of person, I never been a bully type of person. You know what I mean? If I talk to a person like a man, and they tell me face to face, look, I got love for Pac, I'm comfortable to know if I can look in their eyes and if I believe what they said, I have the right to say, okay, no problem, I believe you. You know what I mean? And maybe that's what Snoop went through, I don't know. But let the people know, because it was too early back then. Pac just had died. You know what I mean? Like, he had the right to say, the reason why I brought up with Puffy, I questioned him about my homie, he gave me this answer, so then he did what he had to do, but it just, you know what I mean? I never really agree with that, to be honest. The same way I couldn't be on the stage with them. When they wanted to do that tribute, I just couldn't do it. Like, I really felt in my heart, like, man, I can't believe it.
This is where the larger concern begins, when suspicion starts replacing evidence and narratives slowly drift away from facts. The documentary was never designed to expose an entire industry. It focused specifically on Diddy, his rise, the power structures around him, and the documented events that eventually led to legal consequences. It relied on testimony, legal records, and supported information, not internet rumors. At no point did the documentary accuse Snoop Dogg or provide evidence connecting him to misconduct. Claims suggesting that 50 Cent intentionally protected people remain speculation. Curtis Jackson has repeatedly maintained that only material capable of standing up legally and factually was included.
He was going to come out triumphant.
Yeah, I didn't know that's how this started, is he started filming himself and getting this footage because he thought he was going to beat everything. Okay,
Diddy
that makes sense. Okay.
Has a relationship
with Netflix. I knew that.
With
Ted Sarandis. I saw that. Yes. Okay.
And he's filming it there, but of course, when you get, obviously it wasn't a clean sweep on the prosecutor's side, but you're still going to prison.
Yeah.
He basically kind of scraps it. It's not also Netflix is saying, because they commissioned it, right? Netflix is saying, all right, cool, just turn over what you got, and what we'll do, we'll make it what it is, because we're just following reality. Diddy's like, well, hold on now. If I lost the case, I'm down to still do it with you, but I got to be able to control it. Now, Diddy was probably going to kind of shape this doc to make it look like, hey, this was malicious prosecution. They kind of went really hard at me. Mm-hmm. I'm not a perfect guy, but I am a good guy.
Yeah.
And Diddy was like, I need to be able to craft it. And Netflix was like, no, you're not. And he's like,
well, my question is, did he sign the footage over to Netflix so they own it? Like, how were they able to do this without his?
No, but he didn't pay for it. So essentially, they're calling it a payment error. So essentially, the deal falls apart, or he's like, we're not going to do this.
So awkward.
And the people who did the work that have all this footage, they're like, so wait, you told us to film because this is going to be on Netflix. Now you're saying Netflix doesn't exist, and we're not getting paid because Diddy was going to pay with Netflix money. And Netflix realized this, and they went to the filmers and said, hey.
If anything, the documentary showed restraint during a media landscape driven by sensational stories and shocking headlines. It avoided naming people unless credible testimony or documented records justified their inclusion. That's also why rumors involving hidden footage continue to remain unsupported. No verified recordings have surfaced, no court documents mention Snoop Dogg, and no authorities have identified him as part of any investigation. In fact, Snoop publicly supported 50 Cent after the documentary's release, openly aligning himself with Curtis Jackson without showing signs of conflict. That reality creates a direct contradiction to theories suggesting Snoop feared hidden revelations because public support rarely reflects concern or avoidance.
Through the prism of a modern-day rhetorical genius. A modern-day rhetorical genius. We're talking about the one, the great, the 50 Cent. All right, this guy's skill at rhetoric is absolutely next level, and this totally ties in with, you know, how he famously is a big fan of Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Now, rhetoric with a capital R, I can just give you the definition of that. That's basically public speech, particularly public speech that is to persuade. Any persuasive public speech is rhetoric, right? Now, we kind of break that down into two subcategories of rhetoric with a lowercase r and dialectic. Rhetoric is essentially everything else, and really what moves the needle with like 97% of people and 100% of groups, okay, is in fact rhetoric with the lowercase r. So again, stuff like this, 50 Cent is an absolute master of. Basically, you know, he dropped this doc, this 50, this Sean Puffy Combs doc, and it's just kind of set the internet on fire. It's beating out Stranger Things. Like, it's a wild ride to watch, right? And one of the things that he does is he breaks down Diddy's character on Diddy's own terms.
Another claim frequently repeated online traces back to Courtney Burgess, who alleged he possessed flash drives connected to Kim Porter and suggested they contained sensitive information involving public figures. Once those statements surfaced, internet speculation quickly filled in missing details and attached names, including Snoop Dogg, without evidence. Key context often disappeared in the process. Kim Porter's children publicly rejected claims surrounding material allegedly connected to her, and authorities have never verified what these drives actually contained. Legally, unverified material proves nothing. To date, no authenticated documents, recordings, or court records have linked Snoop Dogg to wrongdoing. Instead, online narratives expanded as possibilities became assumptions, and assumptions slowly turned into accepted stories. Possession claims alone do not meet legal standards, which require credibility and verification, standards often ignored online. As of late 2025, there remains no indication that Snoop Dogg has been questioned, investigated, or tied to legal action.
Because he wanted them to both Suge and Pac.
In the car?
They only Pac, and they don't Suge. So allegedly, they got paid $500,000. The $500,000 was paid to the guy on the right, all the way to the right. You see the guy on the right?
Corey?
He's the one allegedly that got the $500,000. And that money never went to Keefe or anybody else. The guy on the left is the one that stole the chain, the chain, which was a Death Row Records chain. That's a way of saying I got your rapper's chain. Because if you were one of the guys, Death Row. So long story short, this whole thing is a recording that he said this. So what does Diddy do? Rob, can you pull up this song? It's a song called Black Rob, featuring Mark Curry and Mario Winans. If you can just type in lyrics, okay? So he gets $1 million. Can you go to the lyrics? And Diddy's in the lyrics when he gets started. Go a little bit lower. Can you type in the word in there, Rob? Nice guy. Type Control F, nice guy. Okay, right there. Look at it's 1999. No more Mr. Nice Guy. Been nice too long. I'm just gonna start making y'all blank disappear. Man, first I'm gonna take your records off the radio. Then I'm gonna erase your social security number. Take your birth certificate out flies. I'm gonna do your whole effing family. Ain't nothing but mercy. And then, by the way, in the lyrics he says, I'll drop $1 million on your head to erase you. Can you type in I'll drop $1 million? Just put Control F. Just go to Google and type this out. I'll drop $1 million on your head. I'll drop $1 million on your head, and just put Diddy next to it. Right there. See, it says Black Rob. What song came up? I'll drop $1 million on your head. Erase you and your whole family, biatch.
Wow.
He's saying it in the song on what he did to get rid of Tupac.
What an idiot.
Suge Knight has spent years making accusations involving Snoop Dogg, connecting him to betrayal and events surrounding Tupac Shakur's death. These claims frequently return whenever renewed scrutiny falls on the music industry. But none of this is new information. These allegations have existed for years and have never been proven. Often made from prison or during highly publicized interviews, the statements gained attention largely because of controversy rather than supporting evidence. Snoop has repeatedly denied these accusations, dismissing them as products of personal conflict and long-standing rivalry. More importantly, despite decades of investigation into Tupac's murder, authorities have never charged Snoop Dogg or publicly identified him as a suspect.
Being out there and allowing Misha to come out there to make money, however she was doing it, to feed her family. He vowed down that it's like, yo, I ain't never f***ing with her again, and I ain't never f***ing with him again. Puff and Suge had a conversation behind the House of Blues about was we all right, and Tupac was alive. Tupac wasn't dead. So if it was a war, Suge ain't having no conversation with Puff about we good. I know he could be doing a Hoboken hustle, trying to fool him, brother. But had he killed my man or some like that, I wouldn't have no conversation with Puff. I'd been like, yo, you know what y'all niggas done? You know what happened? And it wasn't no conversation like that, brother. It wasn't no conversation whereas that, Suge made Puff feel like I'm gonna get you a payback for what happened to Jake. This was more so that Puff, for whatever reason, Suge, for whatever reason, he was mad at Puff. And Puff, for whatever reason he was mad at Suge, it was between them two. It wasn't no whole East Coast wanted the West Coast dead, and the West Coast wanted East Coast dead, because they still was going out, still chilling, still at places with each other. It was Bad Boy, and it was Death Row. It was no East Coast and no West Coast. West Coast dudes were still coming out on the East Coast getting love. East Coast was still going out on the West Coast getting love. It was Bad Boy versus Death Row. And that's what it was, bro. And it was because of the two CEOs. But Suge try to straighten it out. I gotta get at the Suge. the Death Row East Coast, the Death Row East was going to bring in Eric B. It was going to bring in Big D. And those brothers was from the East Coast. So now, they was looking for a representative to come to the meeting from Bad Boy, so they could straighten out the between Pac and Big and Death Row and Bad Boy. And Puff is the one who refused. Puff is the one to refuse to send a representative or either come himself. And got mad at Zip and them because they were in the Mirage on 57th Street partying with Suge Knight. Got mad at them. And Zip hung up the phone behind that.
One of the internet's biggest problems is how repetition often becomes confused with proof. The more often people hear an unsupported claim, the more believable it can start to feel, even without evidence behind it. That effect is powerful, and many creators lean into it while important context slowly disappears. The conflict between Suge Knight and Snoop Dogg stretches back decades and comes from documented disputes, personal tensions, and public fallout. Because of that history, accusations tied to their relationship deserve scrutiny instead of immediate acceptance. Repeating a claim repeatedly may increase attention, but it does not turn speculation into fact.